Hello everybody and welcome to my first podcast. This is a subject that means a lot to me to talk about because this involves murder, it involves secret government programs, and it involves CIA, and there's a lot of people connected to it. This is some of the things I have experienced on my half of all of this. And you're thinking, what's he up to? What's he gonna tell you now? I'm gonna talk about William Whitecrow, my good old friend William Whitecrow, who unfortunately was brutally murdered by the CIA back in 2017. And how can I say that? And what is my base for saying that? It all has a beginning and it all has an end. And the beginning for me was back in 2014. I started a YouTube channel. I had it for a little while, and I wanted to do interviews with people who have seen UFOs and stuff like that. In that matter, I ran into a person who did Mars anomaly. His name was Andrew D. I spoke to the guy. He was very impressed of my own Mars work as I was doing at the time, and I had some pretty neat findings on satellite images from Mars that I was presenting in Andrew D. Bashako's group on Facebook called Project Mars Anomalies. So that was my way of getting Andrew D. Bashako to know. We had some conversations following up on that, and a lot of conversations, I must say, because I then, the year later, went to America for a conference where Andrew was supposed to be speaking at, but unfortunately he got sick, so he couldn't be there. He was on a Skype to us anyway there, but on that conference there were other people. And one of them that I spoke to mentioned a name like, you have to talk to William Whitecrow. He's one of the most credible people you can talk to in that matter. And I had never heard the name William Whitecrow before, so I asked him a little bit, who is William Whitecrow? He's a whistleblower. He's a former CIA asset in terms of being a soldier sent on a mission, but it turns out to be a CIA-driven mission on Backengineered programs and objects. so that's also a very long story, but he told me briefly about William Whitecrow, and to be honest, in the beginning, I didn't believe 5 pots of shit of it. I didn't believe a word of it. It was too far-fetched, way too far-fetched, but I agreed to contact William Whitecrow, and I did. And I had a Skype session with William, where I asked him about all of this stuff. And the more and more he talked, the more and more I realized there's something to it, because this guy, he's either really, really good at talking, or he's not lying. Because every word he said and the way he said it sounded credible. He could back things up into details. He would never deviate from what he said before. He would never add anything to the things he said before. And what was it that William Whitecrow did? We'll get back to that in a little bit, because first I want to talk about the time when I met William. We became friends on this Skype session, and we agreed that I really need to do an interview with you, William. And I did like 3, 4, 5, 6, which I'm following up on that, and it never stopped. Well, we talked about all his experiences. He was openly telling about him being a soldier, being sent on a mission. One of the missions he was just picked out for and brought to a base and wasn't told anything, and was sent into a big hangar. And in that big hangar, there was this craft, and he was speechless when he saw it. He described a back-engineered crashed UFO, because he knew what it was in there. He had a feeling he was around these guys, but he's never actually seen it in person. He heard about it. They were like 30 men that were ordered on board this craft because they were going to do a support mission on Mars. And William was like, he had heard about all this before, and he didn't really quite first really realize that this was actually real. This is no more sci-fi. This is no more stories. This is not anything that people just tell you for the fun of it. This is actually real. He was standing in front of this craft, and he said that could house about 45 people. There was a 15 people crew on it, and he described it in details, and I still got all the details of some of my videos about the craft that he was writing in, if I can say it like that. They were sent up, their group was sent up in this craft. He described it as a very short journey. The longest time they spent was actually getting out of the Earth's atmosphere, from out of space, out of the atmosphere to planet Mars. He said it took less than 30 minutes. It was just like, and they were there. It was like seeing a movie being played fast forward, like there was. He said directly he was aware that this was made by technology that was not ours. So that was the first time William talked about UFOs, Backengineered craft, contact with ETs and aliens. The contact with ETs and aliens I'm gonna get back into later, because there is a lot of loose threads in this. There's Andrew D. Backengineered. Where does he play in all this? He was talking at the Mars conference in 2015. Whitecrow was invited to the Mars conference in 2016, and I was invited to come and speak there also as well. I signed up for it, and I went there, and unfortunately this time Whitecrow was sick. He was really, really sick. He tried to join us on Skype, and it wasn't very successful, the conference via Skype. Not for William's fault. He was sick. He couldn't be there. He tried his best to do his job, but he was sick. But Andrew D. Backengineered was there. So I am having a room right above Andrew on the hotel, and the one night I go out and Andrew is outside, and I talk to him and say, "Oh, that was a really, really interesting speech you did." And me and Andrew have talked a lot. We was private friends at the time. Unfortunately, Andrew is gone blind and had a hard time communicating with people outside his own world in America without assistance. So I haven't spoke to Andrew for a few years now in person. But at the time at the hotel, Andrew says, "Yeah, but I got a lot more to tell about, but some of it is like, it's already said, and some of this has not been said. It's always a good part we were waiting at till the end." So what did he mean with we are waiting with till the end? Was it because he knew something was going to happen and that would be the last package he dropped? Or what did he mean with it? Anyway, we go in to the hotel room, and he sits and talk about his experiences, and I am getting into William Whitecrow. Now listen to this. The connection between Andrew D. Backengineered and William Whitecrow is that during these missions, Andrew was also a part of that CIA program, the Jump Room. Andrew was already up there. William was a martial arts trainer. He trained soldiers in martial arts, in self-defense. He was sent there to be the soldiers' bodyguards of the soldier. He was kind of like this big, he was what we would call, in the modern world, called a super soldier, supervisor, and he was a martial arts expert. He was Andrew D. Backengineerd's martial arts trainer, and they were in the same group together up there. And they have, of course, met later, not knowing about or recognizing each other right away, because this was in the 80s. Or this went on in the 80s and the 70s. So it is some years ago. It was later then that Andrew made contact to William, and they recognized they had the same past in the CIA program, without them even knowing much about the CIA being involved. They were just there. But everything that they had to do with CIA one way or another had a finger in the game with, as we say. So Andrew is on the hotel, and that's not only it. He also sits and tells me about his dad that raised him to be a CIA asset without Andrew knowing it himself. And he's, of course, this is very interesting. He's in it. He's into it. And his dad takes him to the Dulce base in Mexico, New Mexico, to see this base. And this is where it's becoming interesting, because the people can tell a lot of stories, but people can keep making stories up and make them detailed and interesting. What Andrew Di Basiago told me about the Dulce base before it was occupied by the military is astonishing. That's a chapter for itself, and we're going to come back to that later. But I made some bonds with Andrew Di Basiago, and after that I was he's administrator in some of his groups on Facebook. In 2 or 3 of his groups, there was the Mars Jump group, there was the Mars Project Pegasus, and there was a time traveling group. I helped assist him in this. He was quite hard hit by trolls, and my job in this project was to spend some of the time getting rid of trolls, tracking down. At that time, Facebook wasn't that developed yet. We had to sit and find out manually who added who and who added who added who. And then we could take like 50, 60, 70 people out that were trolls in one big chain. And that was basically my job. I was sitting and fishing out trolls on Andrew, because Andrew was running for president in 2016 and 2020. So for that matter, we needed to keep his Facebook groups clear for stupidity, remove all stupidity, make it look like something good, remove all them stupid people. We don't need them to be in there, remove them. And he was, as I said before, really hard under attack for spammers and trolls that wanted to talk bad about his name and make him look like stupid. So that was my connection to Andrew. William was Andrew's martial arts trainer in the first program where they were sent up there. I made a lot of interviews with William Whitecrow, and they are still on YouTube, but the more and more, as I said in the beginning, I spoke to him, the more and more I realized that there is something to it. I am very critical, so I have, of course, always asked William for the final evidence, which means, can you prove any of it? Can you prove it with pictures, articles? Is there any way you can prove it without it just being your word? We need something more. And I was going a little bit hard to him. I wanted this evidence because I wanted to prove that he was right about all this technology that was existing already back in the 80s, where he was a part of it. And now we had the disclosure hearing in America that's basically confirming it. They are still a little bit behind because all this went on in the 80s, and they have only admitted like the last 6, 8, 10 years or something. They haven't gone back yet. And I think it will happen that they come forward and said, yeah, we already did projects in the 60s, in the 70s and the 80s with back-engineered, not just UFO craft, but back-engineered technology, which was also the jump rooms and Project Pegasus. Some of all of them secret CIA programs that you can read up about today that's no longer secret. We know they were there, we know the programs existed. Some people have to be in some of these programs, and these are some of the people that are in it or was in it back in the 80s. So I've been talking to William about these. My interest was not in him being on Mars. My interest was in the craft he saw and the craft he flew in and the things he said about it. Because it's clearly when you talk to him, he knew people that knew stuff about this. And he said, yeah, they retrieved some of it. I've heard about it for a long time, but I've never really seen it. When I saw it, I kind of couldn't really believe it, even though I stood and looked at it. Kind of like looking at a train and then having a hard time believing it's actually a train. Are you getting confused in your little head? What's going on? It's like a feeling that he haven't felt before. He has always believed in it, but now he's actually seeing it for the first time. So this craft, I got a lot of technical details about it, and I got some diagrams and some drawings about it. I don't think it has been. I think it has been published before on some of his pages, but I don't really think that the public at the time really noticed it, because governments were saying that's not true. That we don't know who them people are, even though they have their own identity cards and mails and paychecks and so on and so on. From that time, they're still denying that they don't know these people. So they're just doing like this, and as long as they like push it out in the distance, people will be looking at people like William Whitecrow and Andrew D. Bashar and say they gotta have been doing some LSD or some drugs in their youth. No, they didn't. This is the actual reality, and we are first starting to realize it in these days after the hearing that, we do have retrieved spacecraft that are crashed. We do have facilities in America that's actually working on it. When I heard that, my first thought was, that was exactly what William Whitecrow told me about. These Backengineered craft, they used it for their own purposes. They used it for their own traveling internal. The reason it was kept as a CIA project and kept away from the normal military was because we didn't need disclosure on it. As long as there's no disclosure on it, they can keep the technology for themselves, for all their war purpose and so on and so on. And William did express that he was a bit disguised he was horrified about the way they actually, the agendas for using it. It's all about power. It's not about the human species gain benefit of new technology. It's about us gaining more power in the world, retrieving this technology, using it for our war machine, so we can dominate the world. And this is exactly what he also speaks about in some of his speeches, that them that are flying those craft will reveal themselves when we are ready for it. But as long as we are trying to dominate the whole world with everything we're given, they're not gonna give us more. But the time is now, and within the next 10, 15 years, I will, with the knowledge I have from my friendship with a lot of people, say that the war machine will be revolutionized in a way we never expected. War as we know it today will not become physical anymore. It will become something else. But the bloody part of it will be gone. I can't explain in details what I exactly mean with it, but remember when we had the 9/11, there were predictions, there were Nostradamus, there were other people predicting this happening, all saying the world will never be the same as it was before. It doesn't mean it's going to be a worse place or a better place. It just means that things and the way we perceive things are changing. Remember how we perceived terrorists before the 9/11 attack, and the way we perceive terrorism now. There's two different time eras in time we are talking about, and this is exactly the same we are going through now with UFO. There's the time before the hearing and there's the time after the hearing. It will take 5, 10, 15 years for people to look back in their history and see how much we actually have been talking about this, while the government still have been denying that the craft exists and these programs are real, because as long as they deny it, they can keep it as a secret and use it for their own purpose to gain control and dominate the world. So when we stop dominating the world, those that have the technology will be willing to cooperate more visible and often with us in public. This is the words of William Whitecrow. Now, we're coming to the sad part, because in the beginning I said this contains murder, killing. Yeah, because as I said, I have tried in a long time to get that final evidence from William. I knew he had it somewhere because he said he had the evidence. He said he had it, but he wouldn't dare put it out yet. And I asked him directly, what are we talking? Are we talking about pictures? Are we talking about documents? And he just looked at me and said, I got an evidence. When you see it, you'll understand. but I can't show it now because the time ain't right. And he was right. The time wasn't right at that time. And that evidence is probably what got him killed. Because I arranged, me and my partner, wife, Dolly Indigo Star, we arranged a new meeting with him. At the time I got married in between to Dolly, that's my wife. We got married and Dolly got in over it as well, and can confirm some of this. And everything I've said today, I still have the Skype conversation, the messenger conversation, everything is saved. So people are very welcome to question me about what he actually have said. But we asked him for an interview, and I really wanted him to give that evidence. And I have been punching him in the face, on a friendly term, of course, for a little while for it. He come back in the chat and said to me he had a long think about it, and the time might be up now. And first I wasn't thinking of him talking about the evidence as such, but more like he want to talk more about in depth. And he said further to me that he had a place out in the woods, and I don't know where it is, but what he said was it's one of them places desolated. You got 100 miles to the nearest neighbor. Nobody never comes out there. He was going out there, and when he come back, he would bring me something from the cabin that he had hidden in the cabin for all those years. And he wanted to show me the evidence, and I was about to drop down my chair when he finally said he wanted to show me the evidence. Because what evidence was it he was talking about? I can feel when I'm talking about this, I'm starting to shake because it's all coming back. What evidence was it he had? And I was so excited. Me and my partner were super excited. We were talking about this, like, whoa! Finally, are we getting the golden arrow, if you can say it like that? Are we getting the golden evidence? Or what is he gonna give us? He then texted us later, the same day, and wrote that he had cancelled all other interviews before and after ours, and he wouldn't be doing any other interviews for a little while. And when our interview is done, he was gonna go out to his cabin in the woods, and he wanted to stay there for a little while and get away from everything. So that was some of the last words of William Whitecrow to us. He said he was looking forward to it. And before he said that, that's important to get that in as well. He claimed that his laptop was hacked, and that somebody had hacked it and they were following him. He had so many issues with every time he went on Skype, and I agreed with him. Every time he went on Skype, there was something going on. He got cut off, sound disappeared, picture disappeared, constantly, and it happened with William for sure every time. And that was the hell when you were editing his interviews, because he was sitting and showing his internet connection on the share screen. He had full internet. He had like 45-50 megabit upload and download. That should be more than enough for a 4K camera transmission, but it wasn't. They kept on being some kind of interference on William's computer. So he said to me that I just bought a new computer, brand new. I picked it up yesterday, and I'm gonna install it tonight and install Skype on it tonight, so we can talk tomorrow without being disturbed. I said to him, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Finally, he got a new computer. That was about time. And that wording to me was some of the things that I remember, because the next day, me and Dolly were out on a little walk. I remember clearly the day we were out and looking at a double grave that was 5,500 years old as a part of our ancient history research. And this black crow came and started like crow does, and we don't really have many crows in the area where I've seen them before, but this is kind of like, is this by coincidence what's going on here? But anyway, we both mentioned William Whitecrow, and that's a black crow. Oh yeah, William Whitecrow, we gotta be home. He's calling in 2 hours, and we were sitting and talking about the interview we were about to conduct with William, about his secrets that he wanted to show us. And we got back, and we were waiting for William, and he never came back to us. Looking at each other, and I remember, oh, something is wrong. Something is wrong. And I know that William has just bought a new laptop because he wanted to show me and Dolly the evidence that he had that could prove that everything he's been talking about since the 80s were true. He wanted to do that. He had kept that for such a long time, he told us. I still don't know what evidence it was. But William never showed up that evening. He never responded to our Skype call. And later that evening, I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw a post saying, and I believe it was his wife posting it, that William Whitecrow was found dead a few hours ago when they came back. Apparently, and this is the information I have, apparently he let all the horses out of their fields, opened the gates, let them out. Why? Then he got back inside, took a shotgun, and this is what I've been told, what I have done of research, and what I have read in the reports, and shot himself in the head. And the police report would of course say it was suicide. That was not a suicide. Who the hell would go out, spend thousands of dollars on a brand new laptop to conduct a last interview with a person? Go out, let all the houses out of the fields, out of the fence, open all gates, go inside and shoot himself with a shotgun. It doesn't make any kind of sense. I know how much William was looking forward to show us whatever it was he wanted to show us. Now there's more connections to it. That makes it even more stranger, because I am in a lot of groups on Facebook. I am in a lot of organizations also. I have believed in UFOs all my life. I am a part of what at that time was called Exopolitics Denmark, now called UFO Denmark, as a normal member in there. That was my way of contributing to the belief in that one day we all gotta be told, so I turned myself in there. I have had a lot of connections with people coming to do speeches. I've met a lot of people, driven them around in I had a little 2CV. And some of them people like Taya Toftenet and Robbie Graham had a great time in my 2CV. I've met a lot of people that have authors and conference holders and UFO researchers. Paula Harris, for example, is one of them. But I've met a lot of people, and during some of them meetings, you learn new people to know. And I got some exo-politicians connection to the deepest heart inside of the worldwide exopolitics organization. Some of them people are really heavy, if you can say it like that, in the community. Heavy people, like big people, big people. Andrew Backengineered was one of them. At the same time, he was running for president in America, 2016, 2020, as I said before. And one of them that I talked about William's so-called suicide gave me some inside information, which part of it I don't really believe in, and part of it I do believe it. The part I do believe it that only could be agreed to was that he was definitely killed. definitely, there's no way that William would go out, spend money on a laptop the day before, buy it to install it to show this that he has been looking forward for such a long time to show, and then go out, kill himself and let all the horses out. I believe the horses were let out for those to come back to spend time on that before they find William. So those who did it get that extra little time to get away. Look, we are out in a far desolated area. It could take up to 2 hours in a car to get to nearest house or other place. So you would probably do something to delay everybody coming there when you have done a murder like that. And that's what I believe was happening. But the conversation I had with deeper connections, and no, it wasn't Andrew DiPasciago. I spoke to him later, and he was also quite interesting. Said that this was something like we are talking old CIA program, mind controlling program, and he claimed he was being activated in one of them programs. It's basically how do you explain one of them program? How can you make similarities? If you go to get hypnosis and he'll say, when I do like this, you become a chicken. And he do like this, and the person standing on the stage starting acting like a chicken, and everybody finds it very funny because he can make the person say or do anything. So it is funny. It is funny to watch on a private scene, yeah. But that's the only way of explaining mind control. You can activate people like that to do stuff they weren't prepared for and never thought they would be doing. And this person deep inside claimed that William had taken part in a program and he was about to reveal something about that program, and that was why he was taken out the day before he was going to talk to me. So I was like, was William killed because I wanted to talk to him, because I kept poking him and saying that evidence needs to come out? I'm almost shaking when I'm still talking about it. And this is my first podcast where I'm gonna open up for a little bit about the threats to American CIA. Was he murdered because he wanted to show me that thing he had? And was that the real reason? And why on earth would he buy a laptop, as I said? Why on earth would he let all the horses out? And why on earth would he send me a text before explaining how much he really looked forward for this interview, and that he had cancelled everybody else because he wanted to go on vacation right after he did the interview? So this person claims that, I'm going to keep his name out of it, but this person claims that William was part of another CIA program. I never heard of it, never ever. Where they were using mind controlled in a way that is very, very, if it came out in public, the word unethical would be the word to put on it in public eyes. Was that what you want to talk about? Did you want to do something about that? I don't know. Now, I mentioned that Andrew DiPasciago has some opinions about it as well. And I have that one as well. And I talked to Andrew. And the first thing Andrew said, and I'm going to keep the second guy out of it. The first Andrew said was, XX, I wouldn't be putting too much into him right here, right now. There's part of it that's true, there's part of it that's not. But yeah, whatever he wanted to show you was probably what got him killed. That's not your fault. That could have happened to anybody who has been talking to him. They didn't want that information to come out. So now we're sitting in 2023. It's like 5-6 years since William passed away, was killed. Things have been moving on. We have the hearing now. When I heard the hearing, the US congressional hearings on UFOs, I was relieved, and the first thing I thought about was William and all the things he's been telling me the last 3 years before he died. because William has told me a lot. Really, really a lot. And I can't see any reason for why, now that we have the hearing saying, yeah, it's real, they're out there. I can't see any reasons at all for why William should have died for nothing. William was fighting for disclosure, but they killed him off. At that time it was for something, but in 2023 his murder has become something for nothing. So what really happened to William Whitecrow, and what was it he wanted to disclose? What was it he wanted to show us? I don't know exactly, but I do have an idea. And when I find out that idea and find out what it is, I can tell you I'm going to disclose it in the name of William Whitecrow, my good old friend. May you rest in peace, William, and you have not died for nothing. You have absolutely not died for nothing. Thank you for listening to my very first podcast. It has been exciting. I'm still shaking because it's a very sensitive information, personal sensitive information. I want to add to it before I cut you off that after the so-called interview where he didn't show up and we found out he was killed, we put a post up on Facebook saying we were looking so much forward to talk to you, but you weren't there. So a few hours later, my computer stopped working. It basically it asked for a restart, said it was some update. We've done that before. I updated it, it started up. I tried to open Facebook, it wouldn't open, and I think I'm just gonna restart the computer again. It's a little bit cranky, that computer. I restarted the computer, and nothing happened. Not even a click, not even nothing. Okay, I tried a few hundred times to get power on this computer to turn on, it wouldn't. I've never believed when people come and tell me my computer is hacked. Oh, it's the FBI, it's the CIA, it's the intelligence service, my computer is hacked. I don't believe it. Because most of what people are talking about are not a real... I do apologize. Most of what people are talking about are not of real interest of the intelligence service. They already know about these things. So, afterwards, my computer stopped working. So what do? I had another one, I turned the spare one on. It worked fine. Took the old one, that was the one at that time I had 16 gigabyte RAM in it. Whoa, that was a lot at that time. So that was the computer I needed to get working through my editing. So I take it to my friend that works at the Copenhagen University. At that time he was my friend, and he was also working on the European Space Agency satellite that measures black matter and doing software for some of them programs they're using for upload and download link. So he's a person who knows about computers. I gave it to him, said, can you look at it please? So he took it up, and I called him 3 days later and said, well, what's going on with that computer? He was like, I don't know how on earth you managed to wipe out your motherboard. What? Your motherboard has been wiped out, everything is deleted on it, it's blank, not even the commands, I think he called the command, something in it are there to start up the computer when you power it up. It's all deleted, it's gone, it's not there. And this guy is a IT expert, computers, laptop, no doubt about it. I give him that credit. It's not a guy I speak to anymore, unfortunately, but he was good at it. And I believed in 100%. He gave me the computer back, and I tried again. He got nothing, and he explained to me in detail why and how he could see, and boom, that the computer was wiped out. And he said he has never seen anything like this. He's seen hack computers that have wiped part of the software out and removed stuff, but he's never seen anything that have wiped out the whole computer, the whole motherboard, everything in it. The command, it couldn't even start up. So that was a little thing happening after the death of William Whitecrow that happened personally to me. And as I said before, I'd never believe people when they say I'm hacked by the CIA, I'm hacked by the FBI, and they're after me, and never believed it. But that day, I had my thoughts. And I never got the computer up and running again. I lost everything on it, inclusive some data with William also, which probably was what they wanted. But that data wasn't the evidence. If they thought I had it on my computer, it wasn't. I wouldn't be so stupid to have it on my computer. And that was not a hint because I don't have the evidence. So that's just saying things are happening around us when you are in that environment. You have to have all your eyes and ears open constantly. You also have to be aware of what's conspiracy, what's fantasy, and what's not. But putting all these strings together from the beginning of the 80s, which is experiences with the UFO that the US Army had. I need to add that he said it was US Army and there was like camouflage on it and there was the Army logo on it physically. He showed me at that time a picture of the Hornby with the Nazi logo and I said it's just like, it's not looking like this, but just like this, it's camouflage with the logo on. Ours were exactly the same. So it was a CIA Army project that was top secret back then. I believe William 100%, and I know a lot of people believe William, but nobody got the power to get the words of William Whitecrow out. And that power should be given to us now that we have had the hearing in America, and we are being told that yes, we have the craft. So give me one reason for why William would be sitting for 10-15 years talking about craft he's been in and keeping it going if it wasn't true. Why on earth would he spend a lifetime talking about this, making a fool out of himself, and keep on doing it if it wasn't true? Now the hearing in America brings a whole new perspective to everything that's been said in the past, and it will bring a whole new perspective to everything that's being said in the future. And with these words, I'm going to thank you for listening to my first podcast. It became a little bit longer than first expected, but I hope you have enjoyed listening to me, and I will be back with more. Thank you.